Let's talk CCU game at ILW and any other major event. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you, long-term subscribers. This may be my most unpopular video of this event, but I often get asked about CCUs and how you can kind of make the most and kind of stretch things. And when I mention like, oh yeah, I picked up this for 5 USD, 10 USD, people are like, what? Wait, what? So in this first example, I'm looking at the P52 Merlin that I have as a referral, and it comes with LTI, and I'm picking up an MPUV tractor. Now you'll note that that is a 40 USD product when you count the credit version, and a 25 USD Merlin, so it's a 15 USD pickup. Believe it or not, this is a pretty good deal, and I see it as kind of a stepping stone. So does it really matter if you have lifetime insurance on a P52 or MPUV tractor, MPUV 1T? Probably not, but it's a nice to have. So let's expound this a little bit and let's go into bigger CCUs and let's talk about, like, you know, some of your options. And when you start looking at CCUs, there are ships, the vehicles and such that can add up to a little bit more. Right now, the new hotness is the Ursa Medevac, which is a 60 USD product, and I am not looking to spend that right now. It's that simple. So I have a few different options. I can melt ships and kind of put myself at a disadvantage. I can do different things, or I can simply CC for what I have. Now, on my list, there's still a P52 Merlin, but that's because it's on the CCUs, and I don't recommend doing it that way, where you can fall into a trap here where you accidentally reuse the same CCU twice, and that won't let you do that. The first one you apply cancels it out, so that means you don't have it anymore. Even though it's under my ships, you cannot use it twice. So just remember that. So I have to look at other options. I already have a P72 Archimedes Emerald, so I'm good on the snubs. I'm very happy with my snub. And I start zoning in on the Scout. This Cutter Scout is kind of underperforming for what it is. And even though it doesn't have its scanning array yet, the Cutter Rambler has more long-term potential, and it already is more enjoyable to me because of its extra weapon racks, bigger hab, still ability to put a pulse in the back. It's kind of a well-rounded ship, and eventually it'll have more hygiene, proper hygiene, as well as food, all in the same ship. Whereas the Scout, yes, it'll have hygiene, but it won't have sustainable foods for one person. So I look and I keep going and I go, oh yes, this luxurious hover bike. Let's go with that. So the X1 Force was a vehicle that I kind of picked up as a CCU a long time ago to play with my 400i. And look at that, 5 USD CCU. So I can keep good insurance and get a proper Ursa Medevac. Now, one note about this CCU game stuff is that you won't get the limited edition paint. So if you were going to you spend 5 USD to get your Ursa Medevac through CCUs, of course, if you already had the ship, there's an asterisk in the air whenever I say this, so I understand before you put it in the comments. It would be 3 USD more to get the Chairman's paint, the Respite paint job for the Ursa Medevac. So if you have your heart set on that paint, you would go into the pledge store, all add-ons, and then paints, and then you can search, or you can just go to add-ons all and just search Ursa, and it'll come right up. So, you can pick it up on its own, regardless if it's on the sale page or not. Now, the interesting thing about CCU Game is that it's not just for smaller ships. It's also not for ships that are out right now. That's another thing that I've run into. Somebody asked me before about, well, can I CCU to ships that are not out yet? And the answer is, of course. I have a zillion Endeavors and a couple, I think a Crucible, an Orion. I have all sorts of ships that I'm looking to hold on to. But right now, a ship that's not out right now, but it's coming, is, for example, the Polaris, which had that $700 war bond. So that means fresh cash. So from whatever you're spending from to, the war bond saves you $50. That's a pretty good deal. But the most important thing is this is not, instead of clicking my ships, in the top left corner, you type in all ships, and then you can use the search to find whatever vehicle you want to start from. And this is the real superpower stuff of long-term CCU game. This isn't for everybody, but if you're into this, it's certainly good. Now, right now, what I was kind of looking for was something that would be comparable. So, for example, you could get a Reclaimer upgrade and sit on it, and it would be 60 USD. But also, my favorite one, for example, when IAE rolls around, or during the year when any other time that the Endeavor base is available, it's 340 USD from the Starfare Gemini to 350 for the Endeavor. So that price at the bottom is at 10 USD in those situations. So you can kind of get mid-tier ships, ships that are long-term holds, that are going to eventually go up big time, or you can go into having some fun. Now, right now, the new hotness for ILW on the first day is the 700 USD war bond of the Polaris. That's cheaper than when it came out in concept, for goodness sake. We're just about comparable. So I immediately go to all ships and I see this Perseus that's literally 25 bucks less. Because remember, it's at war bond, so it's sitting at the 700 price point. So that kind of cuts you out of not every path, but some paths that would be close. So to save the money, you have to go down a tier. And if you don't have a Perseus, you wouldn't be able to hold that. But with that war bond, it's 25 bucks hold. Now, when would this be useful? Because you're probably saying yes, but I'd still have to apply the money for the Perseus. If you are even considering in the future picking up a Polaris, this wouldn't be a crazy move to do, because you could take that 25 USD, spend it now, and then not have to spend a whole bunch of money until the Polaris is out. You can test drive it, get a hold of it, go on a buddy or an org mates, whatever, and see if it's the right ship for you then. See if you like it. See what engineering looks like, by the way, when multi-crew and engineering and fire control as part of that and everything is in there. And see if you really like such a large ship in that type of circumstance. When Master Modes is ironed out and matured. This is, it's a big ship. And you can hold on to this giant ship for 25 bucks and do not melt that CCU. Because that means if the Polaris goes up in price, you will get stuck where you can't pick it up again at that reduced price. At the very least, it can certainly happen in the future. But right now, 25 USD CCU, and the value of this may go up because the Polaris, let's face it, it's not going to stay at 750 USD when the ship's finally out. This thing's a cap ship. It's the smallest cap ship, but it's a cap ship. It's a warship cap ship. It's pride of the UAE patrol fleet anyway, in the backwaters and in the fast hitting areas and such, and skirmishing and such. It is going to be expensive. I strongly suspect, and many of us speculate this, I'm not the only one who came up with this, that this price is going to go up at least 50, 7,500 USD. Who knows where it's going to fall on that spectrum? Maybe even a little bit more, but it will go up. And you can hold it for 25 USD. Now, you're probably wondering, like, where would you get the money for this? You're probably like, I don't really want to spend new money on this. Well, you have to with the war bond, but in other ones, any of these many other options, you could definitely melt a paint or two, even a rare paint, and then you'd have 5, 10, 15 bucks. Melt a set of armor, and all of a sudden you can hold a cap ship. It's all about balance in this game, because you can buy those items back at any time you want, including rare paints that are supposedly only one of a kind. They were only sold 5 years ago, whatever. You can buy them back at any point. So do remember that it is something that a lot of people don't know, is that you can do what's called rolling the paints, where you buy one paint or a couple, let's be honest, and then you keep putting them back into credit. And I'm saying, instead of spending it all back on paint again, I'm saying take partial amount of money and spend it on maybe 1 or 2 of your dream ships. Small holds, preferably 10 or 20 bucks, ideally. In the Polaris's case, 25, and just sit on it. And the Polaris isn't even going to be that long of a hold to the end of the year to be able to have your options. And in the meantime, you don't have to drop a bunch of cash on this thing. You don't have to have that tied up. You don't or all your credit tied up. You can literally just sit on it and not have to sweat it. So I'm showing you that I preach what I say. And it's no secret that, because those are literally what I was buying, by the way, those things. But this is an example of my upgrade game. This is not, some people have questions if I photoshopped or if I'm a reseller or some nonsense. No, none of that. I genuinely believe this much in CCUs, and I have a plan for my Endeavor army where I'm literally going to park them in every single system that's safest to do so, and then enjoy sharing them out. So I don't have to safely move capital industrial ships from system to system, and I'll have multiple of them in each system that I care about. And by the way, most of these CCUs are 10 USD, so it really doesn't matter. In the grand scheme of things, in my credit, I literally bought them with credit, who cares? No, you can't have them, but I'm telling you how to make your own. This is the kind of thing that I run into a lot. I don't sell anything, but I'm giving you the tools. I'm teaching you to fish. I'm teaching the men and women of Star Citizen to fish. And what you do with that info is up to you. You can mock it, you can hate it, you can tell your friends and they can talk you out of it. That's fine. But in the back of your mind, at least, I know in my heart that you got it. You understand where we're going. And here's a good example of a more realistic CCU. It's a 400i to a Galaxy Standard Edition. The only reason I have a 400i is because there's no 415p or 425a. And I'm not going to go into a whole spiel about how I wish there was torps under the wings of a 400 series and a Gatling cannon where the bike is supposed to be parked, and you put a Cyclone MT in the back. See, I just did. But, I'm not going to go into this spiel too much. But I just have to face facts. Once I realized that the 400i is pretty much dead end. It's the runt of the litter, and there's no other puppies. And I find it nice for now, but eventually I'm going to need to upgrade it. I'm going to need to bulk that puppy up. And giving it the high-end kibble is going to be that Galaxy Standard Edition there, and teaching it some new tricks. So this is an example of giving myself like an escape route. So enjoying the 400i now, and then in the near future, when that Galaxy rolls into town, I'll be able to make this a Galaxy base off the fly. Now, this is not a cheap CCU, so I want to put all my cards on the table. Not always are these cheap. You can see right there, 130 USD. But I feel that strongly about having an LTI on this 400i, doing the evaluation that it's never going to be what I want it to be. It's not going to be a 425A in the near future where I could just get a cheap CCU and bump it up or to what I want it to be, slap a paint on it, be happy. None of that. It's going to be a Galaxy, dang it. So, in fact, the paint for that Galaxy is sitting in buyback. Here's another example of a Talent Strike to a Legionnaire. This is an example of a cheap CCU, 5 USD. So this gives me the ability to leave an alien ship and go into a hyper niche ship that may be useful for hacking as a generalist in the future, unless it's heavily limited to just hacking Idra's doors to attempt the breach, and Polaris doors and Jab doors, etc. But that's an example of a ship that I can hold and sit on, and if it turns out to be my right speed of what I need, then so be it. And also, one of the things I was thinking about is if there's NPC capital ships, there could be gameplay in the future for players to take those ships and have a good time, etc. So, as I continue, probably my least viewed video of ILW 2954, aka 2024, I'm going into another example of a good CCU game strategy, and this is a mole to a Starfarer Gemini. And the reason for this is because the Starfarer Geminis started becoming more rare. They were not offered all the time. ILW they are, and I'll probably be picking up some more CCUs to Starfarer Geminis during this, but the mole is always available. And the mole is one of those quintessential ships that CIG wants to make work. They love trotting out the regular Starfarer, the regular mole. They love those ships, being able to show them and sell them. So they're constantly available. So if it's ever in the future that the Starfarer Gemini goes limited, or they start playing games with some way to, you can't get it, I still have some options, some cheap options to be able to roll into Starfarer Geminis, because they're a big part of my upgrade pathway for my CCUs. Remember, sometimes these CCUs can go like multiple layers deep. I know it's weird. Stick with me. So here's some more Star G2 Endeavors, or some of my first ones that started this madness. And then I wanted to show you some of my success stories and also some other things. There's an Orion in there from an M2, for example. That's a good one. Here's a Starfarer G2 Crucible. For what you're getting is nothing. A Crucible's an amazing ship. That's going to be a cap ship, or at the very least quasi-cap very soon. It had to be made much larger in order to have the equivalent of a hangar that may be exposed, but it's still able to handle a full-size heavy fighter sitting in the back, or maybe a medium. Don't quote me on heavy, but a very large fighter sitting on the back of it, and then it can spin around, and then it's supposed to be able to repair cap ships and get them off the field when they're damaged. So if you're trying to salvage a cap ship, as in fix it up to take it off field, whether you own it or you're the new owner, you're going to need one of these. So they're very useful niche ships, but they're who knows how many years down the line. But for only a few bucks, you can hang on to one and sit there and just go, hey, if it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, it doesn't. If your credit can justify this, or if you're sitting through your My Hangar and you just see endless paints and armors, this is the video I think was meant to find you, because while you're sitting probably on your lunch break at school or work or commuting, and you're thinking about these things, I want you to think carefully about the near future and the long term and what your plans are. If you see yourself as supporting an org, things like crucibles, no matter how much they don't interest you or not, they're going to be needed. If you see yourself as like a lone wolf, maybe these ships aren't for you, but you can look at those CCUs, like for example, the 400i to anything else, might be a good idea for the future. And this is showing you directly that I am not just espousing this, I live this. So for half the price of an Nursa medevac, the Nursa, I am picking up a Nursa. I am picking up an MPUV tractor beam to play with, and even an 11 USD paint for my Phoenix. Which, of course, after this event's done, there is probably a 95% chance that'll get melted, and that money will be back in, and you guessed it, probably another Endeavor CCU or something. Who knows? But the point is that that's how you should experience this game, and let it play to you. Don't really look too hard at the sale pages and what those little boxes that are available to you are. You can get the lay of the land on there and enjoy the event and everything else. I'm not saying don't do that, but go to the pledge store, go to add-ons all, and then sort by price, and then take a look, or just search. Here's an example of some of the paints, for example. Once again, I do these things. Melted Galaxy Protector paint. That's a two-tone paint. I might like it because I really like two-tone, but we'll see if it's worth it. When the ship comes out, finally, and I get a chance to see what that protector paint looks like, I'll probably buy it back. And you know what? If I don't like it or I get bored of it, I'll melt it. Right below it, the Soylent 3 paint pack. And then right below that, a Lynx paint. So, these are just a few of them. And I mean, I'm just trying to give you some perspective on paints and how I feel about paints and subscriber gear and stuff. Now, there's some you've seen me wear many, many times. You might not even know it. And, you'll be quick to point out that I use certain paints constantly and certain armors constantly in clothings. Yeah, I do. Because I need them for the PTU. And particularly the armors and the clothes, to be fair. Because, believe it or not, pants, I'm going there. Pants and boots are extremely rare in clothing sets. They give away shirts, like sweaters and shirts and all sorts of stuff for special events and for holidays and whatever. They don't give out pants for some reason most of the time. And shoes are a little less rare. But anyway, the point is, I'm going off tangent. But the point is, during the PTU, I need to have different types of clothing and armors to be able to throw them on quickly and just go out the door and get stuff done. And every time the PTU resets, I get my stuff back. Now, if you're listening to this in the future, when we have the ability to claim stuff at the cargo at the item kiosks, you're probably rolling your eyes. But at this moment, while I'm recording this in ILW 2954/2024, really, we don't have that. And I wanted to show you again, just right here. I'm not bragging. These are just success stories to show you how the CCU game can be done. So here's a 235 USD, and this should be my BMM because I know my BMM is a 235 USD. But you can see it comes from a Gladiator. This was heavily CCU gamed up the ranks, but that took a long time to get there. And then you can see one of the Starfarers. What a coincidence, right? For 250 CCU, it's holding my Carrack. And by the way, even that Carrack was CCU'd from another Carrack. Early on, they made the Pisces Expedition added on. So to get the Pisces with 4 size 1 guns on board, you had to upgrade your Carrack to get the Pisces to spawn with it with the 4 size 1 guns instead of 2 size 1 guns. It still had the 2 size 1 slots. But once again, it's all about, to me, getting those things while I'm on the ground running during test beds and such, on PTUs, EPTUs, wherever they put me. So I need to be able to hit the ground running, and things like the Carrack are extremely useful for that. And having a fully equipped ship doesn't hurt. So, and it was cheap. I mean, I think it was $10 upgrade or 15 or something. And that's kind of the game here, though. If you see yourself as somebody who's really seeing value in this, where you're going, yeah, there's some good points here, CCU game's for you. And there's really two camps. There's the incremental CCU game and there's the long-term CCU game. And I've kind of meshed them together as best I could into hopefully something coherent here to show you. And honestly, yeah, if you really want to go down into the weeds, you can say that this was just a romp through my hanger and the sale pages. But if you learn something out of it and you gain something out of it to help you build your strategy for your goals, I think it did its job. And for those people that did reach, this might be a shock, but I'm going to ask you to subscribe if you haven't already. And I want to thank you to my long-term subscribers who follow me into this madness of these videos that let me freeform. It's by far, I make these videos as much for you as I do for myself anymore. And I mean that in every which way. And once again, I do this myself to make this possible. I look at these huge packs that are available, and I'm sure they're for somebody, but they're not for me. And the only reason I'm able to do what I can do is because of CCUs. And for half the price of an Nursa medevac, I literally can enjoy this event so much more and keep my powder dry for what the rest to come is. Because events like ILW and the Alien Week that comes right after it, by the way, and the Defense Con between them, it's like a marathon. And it's kind of like you want to be cautious about spend early on, especially if you're spending real money, not credit. And that's kind of up to you. And once again, it's your goals. But don't let limited information and fear of missing out and the hype train take you from like a positive feel to like something where you feel buyer's remorse, where I spent $60 on the medevac. I went and bought that tractor for 40. Oh man, I'm already like 100 in. I got some neat paints, but War Bond's like $5 less or whatever. But the point is, it's the same. You don't want to be in that position where like you don't feel like you can enjoy the rest of the event. You don't feel like you have options. And there's going to be other things in this event that you will want. Trust me. At the very least, keep your options open. And if you don't believe that these vehicles will not be available for longer than this is available, first of all, you don't have to believe me. The finale of this event sells every single ship. So, you can literally just roll till then. You can curse me out for a few days if you miss it, if they pull this and you can't get a hold of it throughout the event, and then you can buy it at the finale anyway. You're not missing anything. So if you look at the schedule and you see a company that you're like, I'm on the fence about it, they might come out with something I like, or I'm really looking hard at that fighter, I'm really looking hard at that upgrade for that, yeah, you should. Because at the end of the day, the Nursa, I love it to death. I'm going to have one, obviously. I might even pick up a second one eventually. But depending on how it performs, I'm confirming that its respawn really works the way everybody's claiming it does. And, of course, that considering its long-term implications. So I don't want to ice myself out of a CCU chain I already have. That's a whole nother thing. It's like double-checking your CCU chains. But the point is that I'll definitely have one. And I see it as an upgrade for my Connies. So my Connie Phoenix, for example, will have a Nursa pretty much constantly parked in the base of it. And congrats, I just added medical. One of the only things I think that ship's missing, other than its PDS turret. And a few other minor things. But the point is that I see a value to it. And if you see a value to it, you should pick these things up. Who do I think this isn't for? If you already are staring at a huge game package, you're fine. Don't sweat it, whatever. And if you're a player that has literally just a base game and that's it, and you have like an Aurora, I would CCU game off of that. Start focusing it up, and preferably aim for the 10-year USD sales, because they will come up on smaller ships, by the way. You don't have to like upgrade to a Polaris just to get the 10-year. I guarantee the rest of this week, you will have plenty of chances to get 10-year War Bond chances at normal-sized ships. So that means you can take your 6-month game package or something like that and turn it into 10-year. And if that ain't a win, I don't know what is. So if you're in that camp, don't spread yourself super thin. This advice is mainly geared towards the people in the middle, the huge amount of us that have a couple ships we're playing with at the very least, and we're kind of looking at what's next without having to break the bank. I hope you found this useful. If you thought something was really, maybe not um, left field, sure, but if you see something that's genuinely going to affect people, please put it up in the comments. If you thought this was helpful, put that in the comments. If you thought this was bad, put that in the comments, I guess, too. It's fair. But in particular, if we could focus down anything that I genuinely missed or issues that you see with my strategy, because I don't want anybody to get burned by this. I'm trying to help them. That's why I'm making this. I'm taking a huge risk here. It's probably going to get 100 views, this video. But the other thing is, on your CCU chains, if you need advice on them, I am available on Discord all the time. I'm available on Reddit. I'm available on, of course, in the comment section if you're okay with talking in public. People are still shocked to this day. I read everything. And I comment whenever I find that I can add value to it. It's a discussion. Or just thank you for, participating. Yeah. So, yeah, keep them flowing. I find that very engaging and fun. And it certainly makes the editing go by quicker. Because that's actually usually most of the time when I'm reading them, I'm editing the next video. All right. Have a great ILW.